Hey everybody, it's Durger time. Thank you for joining me for a very exciting episode 0 of a brand new save on this channel. I am so excited to bring this all to you. It's been something that's been in the works for a while, and it has come and gone in many different test phases and never seen the light of day, and I'm really happy with what we're about to do. So this is Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling. This is going to be episode 0, so this is sort of walking through what the hell this is, and kind of showing off what kind of product it's going to be, and the origin of it, as well as a roster reveal. And then following that, in about a week, we'll have a brand new episode 1 that we're going to have. So I'm really excited about it, but let's go back all the way to the beginning. What is Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling? This is... For long-time viewers, you're going to know that I had a local to global, and I had ended it. I wasn't really thrilled with how it came out, mostly because I just felt like the local to global was a little too slow for the format that we were doing it. And this wasn't the right product for it either. But Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling, while not my dream company necessarily, the theme, everything like that, the presentation is my dream company. It's a mix of Lucha Underground with sort of the modern aesthetics of storytelling that you would expect from high-caliber prestige television. Because pro wrestling has not really evolved that much in terms of its storytelling. It still kind of harkens back to the territory days, while everybody else around them are kind of telling, in television, are telling more modern and sophisticated stories. Not that this is going to be advanced or sophisticated, but you get my idea. This is a company that is going to be running a television show, wrestling show, right? So, very much like how Lucha Underground was, where it taking its angles seriously, it's taking its own in-universe storyline seriously. We're going to be taking Cyberpunk seriously as well. And we're going to go over what that setting is in a moment. Let's go through what the company is first. So, Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling is in this universe. What happened was we had a sit down from a media company that is partnered with a longtime wrestling fan and actor. Came up with this pitch. He has a lead writer that's very passionate about pro wrestling as well, and he wanted to produce a new, innovative type of wrestling company to the audience that hasn't happened before. It hasn't really been out there before. And they pitched it, and the studio loved it. They were wanting to take a risk on it because wrestling got hot again. It's an edgier product. It's a mature product, but it's on a channel that needs some relevance. So that person is Stephen Amell, who has been doing a lot of wrestling work lately. He's in a television show called Heels that is all about wrestling. He is a very passionate fan of wrestling. He's even had several matches in wrestling, and he got the bug. He wants to wrestle, and he wants to be a part of something in the wrestling industry, and he's going to bring that Hollywood acumen to the wrestling scene. So, he's got a lead writer, he's got a writing team, they're running it like a show. They pitched it to the Sci-Fi Network, who used to have a long history of pro wrestling on it, but they kind of went away from it. And now, as wrestling is back, they want something new and something in-brand. And that's what Cyberpunk Wrestling is. Cyberpunk Wrestling is an in-universe, dystopian, cyberpunk-themed sci-fi wrestling show. So, what does that mean? What that means is, if other wrestling shows take place in the real world, right? So AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling all take place in the real world, or a close to our world. They are characters, they're portraying as characters, but those characters exist in our real world at the same time, right? You could go meet Kenny Omega. You can go meet, Roman Reigns, and they're going to pretend to be relative versions of those characters because they exist in our same, shared world. Cyberpunk's not that. Cyberpunk is an alternate world that treats its story and its characters and its wrestlers as its own contained universe, like a television show. So in the same way that you couldn't go and meet, Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones, you could meet the actress, but you couldn't meet the real person, or you couldn't meet them as the character as as though they were a real person, because it's a television show. It's the same way for Cyberpunk. So we're gonna have a roster of wrestlers that we'll reveal a little bit later in this episode that are be portraying fictional characters. Some of them might have similar names to themselves. Other ones completely different. In fact, some of our roster are not wrestlers at all, but actual Hollywood actors who were hired to help assist in producing this television show. Because that's really what this is. It's not just a wrestling promotion, which it is. It's really first and foremost a wrestling show. If you're confused by that, if you've seen Lucha Underground, you get kind of the idea of how that world works. Now, we're on Sci-Fi. We're on Sci-Fi for a year. So that means we have unlimited television shows. We are on late night. So if you were to look, we have Cyberpunk Wrestling on Sci-Fi. We also have an option for 4, well, actually, not even an option. We need to do 4 sort of key specials. So there'll be special events. They can be longer. They can be the same time, but they're going to be a longer show. And there will be special events that kind of cap off every couple months. And then we have a regular show that runs on late night on Sci-Fi. They've given us a lot of leeway. So we have a relatively low quality minimum because we're on late at night. But they're only optioning us for a year. If they don't like what they see, they're going to drop us and we're going to have to find a new place to work. We also have a lot of startup capital, which is currently just a little under $3 million. Part of our money immediately had to go to a warehouse, because what we needed to do is we needed to get a venue, and we're going to be running out of the Hollywood Studios in Hollywood backlot. So we're running it out of Hollywood in Los Angeles. We're running it in a backlot that is set up to look like a rundown, grimy warehouse, mixed with some neon signs and things like that. It has an aesthetic of a back room sort of dingy dystopian fighting pit kind of thing. We have a setup for up to 500 people. We will have live studio audience in attendance. Normally this type of show would be all filmed way in advance, but we're not going to do that, and that's just for the sake of simplicity of recording this. The game only lets you film up to 4 shows at a time, which makes sense, but this type of show would really have been filmed probably almost all at once, or in blocks up to each pay-per-view. And we can't really do that, and running 4 episodes at a block, it's not tenable for a show. We won't get these nice little backstage. So we're going to run it live weekly, but really it would be taped, and it would technically be taped before. And we may actually tape it before. We have to look at what our availability is. Our roster that we have currently, we have about 39 roster members, and we'll go over that a little bit later. We are open for more wrestlers. We will look for more wrestlers. One of the big problems with our roster currently is there's a lot of people that are unknown. So some of the requirements that I did for the start of this is that all had to have people that are not currently working exclusive contracts elsewhere and are working handshake deals for the most part. And we could lock down for 1 year. So we got a 1-year contract exclusive that we lock down. Most of the talent that we have are people that are up and comers. So that's going to be a problem, because a lot of our focus is going to have to be on our main eventers. And we have a couple of main eventers, and so some established names that are playing new characters. But for the most part, our roster is really going to be something we're going to have to build up and work with. So we are going to be scouting for talent to find new people to come in And we're going to need to, because as we'll talk about what this world looks like, this is a dark universe. And unfortunately, characters will come and go. Characters will die permanently and just leave the show. So it's all a bit of a problem for them, and we'll have to kind of deal with that. What is the product? So this is kind of interesting, and this is where most of our challenge is going to be in booking this, because our product is something I've never run before, and it is a gritty script television. So it's a gritty adult noir. This is a tough one. We have integrated women's wrestling. We do have a face and heel divide, but it's not enforced because it is it's a show where there's no real good guys, no real bad guys. I mean, there are some good guys for sure, and there's some real bad guys, but a lot of people have their own personal motivations, so face and heel doesn't really work that well. But a gritty adult noir show is a professional wrestling show that is portrayed like an adult TV drama. So again, this is something that would be like on the FX network, or, you know, in this case, Sci-Fi. It's going to be portraying itself like a TV show, even though it is a wrestling show. Own universe, and it has its own storylines and character work. It generally uses lots of angles to unfold the plot with strong language and graphic content. This is an MA-rated show. This is not for children. There's going to be a lot of problems with this. Matches tend to be violent, or at least short and chaotic, although their quality is not paramount. So we have some advantage in that the quality of the match doesn't need to be huge. We don't have a match penalty for long matches, I don't believe, but the fans are expecting for events 60% matches and 40% angle, so they're not a very match-focused show. For television shows, though, only 45% matches, which is very interesting. Most of our show is going to be angles, which makes sense because we're producing a television show. There's going to be a lot of character drama talking back and forth, and I'm really excited to show you that, because we have a really neat presentation set up to kind of show you these angles. Matches are rated on 40-60 to 60-40 in-ring to popularity, depending on what's best. So popularity matters, but in-ring match matters as well. It's skewed a little bit to either, so it's going to be a blend, and that's probably going to be the thing that hurts us the most. If it was just focused on in-ring action, we probably would get better performances in match ratings, but currently a lot of our audience is unfamiliar with some of these workers, and it's going to hurt us. So some of our focus is going to be not just on telling the story, but also thinking about how we can kind of build these people up to be noteworthy in some way. Fans are open-minded. They'll accept any match. Any matches less than 10 minutes will not be able to achieve world-class scores. Some penalties for comedy, eye candy, etc. Only ultra-dangerous matchups will be penalized. They're expecting a lot of gimmicks. They're expecting a lot of ongoing storylines. Major matches will be penalized if they don't have an associated storyline. And then pretty much the same, other than we will be limited on broadcaster time slots that we can get, and it will be difficult to find sponsors. We are kind of an edgy product. Very untested product. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put on basically like an HBO tone show, or an FX tonal show that is for adults, that's gritty, edgy. It's not gratuitous, right? We're not playing a gratuitous show. There are some sets like that. We're not being scandalous or anything like that, but we're running a adult-oriented television show about wrestling in the future, and and it's going to be a little bit challenging to find sponsors for that, find time slots that will let us be on there, etc. We're not going to be on 8 to 10 bracket, right? Because you can't. There's certain shows you can't even show on certain television networks at certain time periods. So that's going to be kind of a problem for us after that year's up. For now, though, Sci-Fi has us at late night, so from like 10 to 12, and we're going to be able to run with a lot of leeway as long as they don't boot us off. If they boot us off, I guess we're going to Pluto or something. So that'll definitely be a problem. Now, in terms of production, we're a pretty expensive production show. We're doing in-house music, but we might have to upgrade it. Same thing for the live event. I don't know what our rivals are looking at. So our rivals, because we are a small company, is NXT. We might have to up it just to look like them, and try to go big. Again, we do have a lot of capital, so not too concerned about that. But it is something to worry about, because this is going to be a show where we lose a lot of money, right? The goal of this is to put on a show and eventually do really well with it, but it's probably going to lose a lot of money from where we are at this stage to where we need to be. That's going to be a bit of a problem. The size, we are in our 30s. We got some buzz going in. The tri-state area is very interested in us because they have that sort of historic wrestling pedigree. Southwest knows us well because it's where we're airing, and everybody else has heard of us because we've had some big promotions going into September. So where we go from there is going to be a bit of a question mark, and obviously we're going to need to really move the needle in order to keep that sci-fi contract. Now, let's talk about the setting. Let's talk about the world of Cyberpunk. We'll go deeper into this in episode 1, but this does take place in the future. So the setting is a dystopian, futuristic world of the United States where AI has taken a lot of people's jobs. Social media has run wild to the point where everything is entertainment for people. The divide between the rich and poor have only widened, and mass unemployment is the norm. For people to have a good life in this world, if they're not born into it, they generally have to struggle and fight to survive. And one of the avenues of the ladder to success in this world at this point is to make a name for yourself. One of the most popular ways to do that is through sort of combat sports in these sort of dingy, rundown environments where, just like during the end of the Roman era, Colosseum battles to the death became popular. The amount of celebrity you get by risking your life, quite literally in some cases, in these battles has become sort of the norm in America in this future. So our characters are all competing for fame, for glory, sometimes for revenge. They are all going to have really personal reasons, but they've all come to one place to fight, and it's basically to improve their standing in life. And in many ways, their fortunes and fates will be determined by the bloodthirsty fans that are watching on screens, trying to sort of dull their own senses as they sort of watch this violence for entertainment. We're going to be following one character as a protagonist, but there's going to be many, many different stories going on that we're all going to be following. It's going to be an ensemble show. And like I said, we have a mix of real-life actors that are going to be portraying characters, as well as wrestlers. One of the requirements for our initial batch is I looked for people, while they can go in the ring, when the primary focuses were they all had to have at least above average charisma, acting, etc. Couldn't find a lot of people because a lot of people are not into things, but we have people that generally have pretty good charisma, pretty good acting skills, entertainment, things like that, because they're going to be doing a lot of acting. There are going to be a lot of segments and story beats that we're going to have to deal with. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's get into our roster reveal and reveal our entire roster of talent for Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
So big cast and crew, really excited by having some of these names, very excited about seeing how they develop. And obviously we're still going to be looking for more talent because a lot of these guys are a relatively unknown name. So we're going to try to build them up, but it's also going to be a struggle. Obviously we have some big names in there that will be portraying characters that, at least early on in the show, are going to be beneficial to us as we kind of try to develop the popularity and the celebrity of some of our workers here. But a really cool cast. I'm really excited because so many of these guys I've never dealt with before. And as you all saw, they have very unique characters and their own personas that they're going to be running. So it's even if you know these wrestlers, the characters that they're portraying are going to be vastly different. Potentially vastly different than who you know them as in indies and in other promotions. So very excited, and I'm looking forward to running the series. Hope you guys are excited to see it. Episode 1 will be up relatively soon, and I think it's going to be something really special and interesting. So thank you all for waiting for it, and thank you for all for supporting the channel. This entire series would not exist if you did not support the channel, and you all have. This was sort of a 2,000 subscriber bonus that kind of runs something new and something that I'm passionate about. Really experiment in new ways to story-tell fantasy booking, both in story and tone, as well as presentation, which you guys will see in episode 1. So thank you all again for your continued support. If you haven't already, please think about subscribing to the channel, which, obviously helps out massively for us in terms of just visibility, to continue to do really cool, unique things like this. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all. I'll see you next time for episode 1 of Cyberpunk Pro Wrestling.